first meeting, like first 5 minutes of the meeting, going through this, going through. I'd even pull out in today's world, I'd even pull out like pictures of the kids, show them, pictures of the kids and stuff, just to let them know that, in your situation, Ben, hey, I'm getting married, it's a picture of my wife, and really excited, blah, blah, blah. But whatever you feel like you want to show, but just, share your staff photos, just a little bit about yourself. And get over that, because there's really the 4 barriers you got to overcome. You can probably talk about, the no trust, the no hurry is the big one, no money, and no need. So those are the 4 hurdles to overcome. The first 5 minutes, really, I'm just trying to overcome the no trust. But as I've grown in my career, I've kind of done a little bit less of that. I'd like to really encourage you guys to be sure to do a little bit of Horace Mann. Typically when I start the meeting, I'll sit down and just say, because they've, I've already had a chance to. The beauty of these luncheons is I've already had a chance to develop somewhat of a relationship with them.
Right.
And over the years, you've seen me in the school several times too.
Right.
I mean, I've known you for several years in the school. So finally, she has gotten to the point after 3 or 4 years where she's checking boxes, and even came up to me one day in the hallway and said, "I really need to meet with you." So that's kind of where we got to the point. I set up that time to meet with her, and as we met, that's when I found out. I don't know if I knew beforehand that she had the spouse or not. I believe I may have, because he also is in the PERS system, the Public Employees Retirement System. So there's a nice little way there to kind of bring the benefits together and help them understand all that. So really, to start the meeting out, typically I'll just talk a little bit about. For example, I might just say something like, Sharon, we decided to get together today to talk primarily about your retirement, do some retirement planning. Have you ever worked with Horace Mann before?
I haven't. I know a lot of people that have, but haven't done anything.
Because I know I've seen you several times in the school over the years.
passed by and
I'm really glad that we could finally get together and talk a little bit. But today more than anything, I just want to kind of introduce you to what we do, to the services we provide to our teachers and our families.
I haven't done anything for quotes yet.
I've been with Horace Mann now for 16 years, so just really excited about the relationships I've built. And the company just continues to do some great things, like our special programs and partnerships we have that you're building. But today, what I'd like to do to start is just kind of show you a model I've put together. Over the years have just realized more and more that there's so many great programs and services that we provide, and this model does a really nice job of depicting those services and those programs. Some being a little more foundational than others. I feel like it's important to show the house model, because I can kind of work from the foundation up, because I just feel like this is a really nice, well-balanced approach to financial planning. Over the years, I've seen a lot of situations where teachers have jumped right up here into the 403B plans and things like that without really addressing some of the other needs. So one of the really nice things about our company is we do all of these things and more. So just kind of touch on this, and after I show you this, I'd like for you to just identify the things that you feel like are the most critical for you.
Sure, that'd be great.
And then I kind of keep the card out in front of them too. So initially, foundationally, I feel like there's 3 or 4 things that are critical. The first one, disability income protection, just does a really nice job of making sure that your paycheck continues in the event of your disability. And on your STRS statement of benefits, when we go through that together, I'll show you how that works. Because your STRS does provide that coverage. It's just important to make sure that's enough coverage for you in the event of a disability. Of course, life insurance, I feel like, is the center, the heart of the foundation. Really feel like it's important, especially as you approach retirement, to make sure you have enough life insurance, to make sure that the life insurance that you do have will make sure, or help ensure that you can maximize your pension benefits. So one of the things I like to do with you guys is go over your life insurance program and make sure that you're adequately insured there. The health insurance, of course, is critical. Those costs continue to go up. Do you know how Medicare works? Do you understand how all that works?
A little bit.
Yeah, because when you retire, you get to the point where you're 65, your Medicare will kick in.
Right.
And then your STRS benefits will become secondary. So we'll talk a little bit about that too, help you understand that. The other one I really feel like is critical that I feel like we really do a nice job of helping our families with is managing your debt, and that's very foundational. I want to make sure that when we get into making recommendations regarding your retirement plan, your investing, that I have a good handle on your debt, and ultimately I think it's important that we really work on a budget together too.
Okay.
Because that way we can make sure that number one, the money is being spent correctly, and number two, the debt is being retired promptly, and number three, that we understand what your budget here is for the retirement planning piece and for the life insurance piece as well. So foundationally, are there any questions on any of those things? Is there, okay.
No, I didn't know that you guys did the debt as well. That's good for us to know.
Yeah, it's really important. I feel like it gets overlooked a lot. I really like the Dave Ramsey program. Are you familiar with the Ramsey program? Yeah, I mean, I really like the Ramsey program. He does a really nice job of addressing debt before, and certain kinds of life insurance, the Roth IRAs we'll talk about a little bit, but the Ramsey program really does a nice job of addressing that too. So it ties in really well with that as well. And then the emergency fund accumulation, not quite as foundational, but also very, very critical. I'd love to see you guys have at least 3 to 6 months worth of liquidity in the bank. And then I may even ask at that point, how much would you say at this point you have in your emergency fund?
Well, we're probably at 30 to 60 days.
Okay, good. So 3,000-4,000 maybe.
Right.
Okay, good. So that's a pretty good start. So I can help you guys build that up a little bit too, just to make sure that you don't have to run up the debt, the credit card type of purchase, things like that, just in the event of the unforeseen. So kind of go through that a little bit too. As far as the insurance goes, we do a great job for educator families with making sure that number one, you understand your coverages and your coverages are adequate. The other thing we really try to do is add some new benefits. We offer programs and benefit packages for our teachers and their families that other companies don't. So at some point I'd love to take a look at that for you too. Maybe even help you free up some money that you can use to put toward your Roth IRAs or put toward your debts or things like that. So love to take a look at that for you too. And then finally, the retirement planning piece gets up here toward the roof. We feel like it's all brought together by making sure you understand how your STRS works along with your PERS. You said Larry is involved with the PERS, correct?
Right. Yep.
Yeah, and I think it might be a really good idea for the next meeting that we get together and the three of us review those benefits, how they work, how they tie together at retirement. Because I think you're going to find that these two pieces are really going to be the most important thing for you guys right now. So
that'd be great. We haven't. I've talked to people about mine, but we don't talk about his. So.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to do that. Plus, I think when we start talking about your budget and how you guys are spending your money and what your retirement goals are, it's going to be really important for the three of us to get together and talk about that. So that's after we're finished here, I'd like to do that if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. And then the retirement planning also gets into deciding whether you guys should do the Roth IRAs versus maybe the 403B programs. Any children at this point?
Yeah, we've got 2.
Okay, out of the house.
One's a sophomore in high school and one's in college.
Okay. So I would get that information too. In this particular case, they're actually like 38 and 36 and out of the house and all that kind of stuff. So.
Sure, I guessed.
But in that situation, if you said that, I would go ahead and take that information down.
Okay.
And of course, that really helps my life insurance cost too.
Sure.
So at least for the next 5 to 10 years. So it's just you kind of play on that as you hear that stuff. You just say, okay, now what are their names? And so at this point, I would probably just say something like, okay, now based on all this and everything we've talked about, what would you say are your top 2 or 3 things at this point?
Definitely want to look at the retirement planning.
Okay.
The budget and the debt sounds like something I'd be interested in.
Okay, good. Yeah, and that's kind of what you said. Although in this situation, you got those magic words. I'm actually debt free at this point.
No.
Which is wonderful. Yeah. So you got a pretty good opportunity, and the budget's going to look pretty good. But she said, yeah, I'm looking at retirement savings. She said, I'm good at money management. We're debt free, and they really want to stay comfortable at retirement. So I'll after I go through this, I'll kind of go to the back of the folder and just write that down, and that's kind of what I focus on. So typically, I'll get those similar responses. But at that point, it also leads me into, okay, now, what's your date of birth? What's Larry's date of birth?
Sure.
I'll get all that preliminary information, talk a little bit about the kids, and then I'll just go right into, typically, since she said this was the most important thing, typically I'll turn it over and start taking information regarding how much money you've saved, what type of programs you have. In this particular situation, She actually has about 50,000 in the bank, and they don't have any other accounts, no retirement accounts, no nothing.
Wow.
So that's kind of the situation we're working with here.
So, because I didn't mention these two, would you go back and hit them again?
And that's what I did. I said, okay, now, and I forget how it came up in this particular situation, but it kind of led into, okay, now what kind of cars are you driving? It may be,
So it was more of a discussion in the beginning, and then you were trying to pull out.
Right.
Okay.
but it may be, and in this case, first meeting they brought no papers. I don't know if you guys run into that too, but a lot of times that happens. Sometimes they bring their papers, first meetings, a lot of times they go, oh, forgot you were coming,
Right.
you know, type of thing.
It's so busy.
So busy, yeah. So this particular time she did not bring the papers, but yesterday with her husband she brought the papers. Still being kind of funny about her papers, you know, and I told her what I needed, and typically they'll say, yeah, go ahead and take them and bring them back to me.
And I noticed she said, I'm a good money manager.
Yeah, she's a good money manager. She's pretty controlling. She's also very, like I said, she's very analysis paralysis type of person. Because we talked about Roths for probably 15 minutes or so, you know, just kind of discussing the ins and outs of how Roths work, and she just was really confused by the whole thing. So we really got into some heavy discussion there yesterday. But she did have her papers yesterday, and I told her, you know, for hopefully our third and final meeting, I told her what to make sure she brings back for me that meeting. So at this point,
What did you need at that point for her to bring for the third meeting?
well, she actually brought like her PERS and her. She's actually through the state employees retirement system. She's a teacher aide. So she brought all that stuff,
Okay.
and I'm helping them kind of understand how their benefits work and navigate through those. I do want to call the retirement systems to see how the spousal benefits work on those two. Because typically, do you guys have the like the single life options and the joint survivor options?
Yeah.
What's a typical scenario there for you guys?
If you take a joint survivor 100%, it costs you about $400 a month, and about $200 a month if it's joint 50.
So it's typically about a $400 a month difference.
Yeah.
How do you address that?
Well, the majority of the time I have not had anyone that was going to take a survivor option. You know, I've sold one UL off of it, and another. I just met with a lady who is going to take a survivor option, but for her, no kids. Like, she has no one that she would want to leave the money to. So if her husband, who will probably die before her, she'll just bump back up, and like that's fine with her. So I didn't push it, you know. But I told her, you know, I think life insurance is probably a better option. But in your case, you don't care. You don't want to leave money to anyone. So that's fine.
Well, how does he feel about that though?
She is a very difficult lady to deal with, and whatever she believes, you know, it's kind of hard to change that. And maybe she hated men for about 20 years. She was bad divorce, hated men for a long time. Remarried this guy like 5 years ago, in her lower 50s. So he has kids, but she's not interested in leaving them money because they're adult children.
Right.
So. But yeah, like I said, most people that I've met with, they're not interested in taking the survivor.
Wow.
You know, I guess he'll be just fine. He makes more money than me.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we find a lot of the opposite, where you know, a lot of these folks aren't even understanding their benefits and how they work until they're real close to retirement. At that point, their options are so limited, and their spouses are pretty much like, hey man, you got to make sure I'm taken care of too. And it costs them, like you said, $300 or $400 a month to do that. Sometimes $500 a month to do that.
So do you try to talk about and I apologize, I missed. Do you try to talk about the pension max idea, or do you try
Yeah.
to?
And we also, do you guys do the plop option?
Yeah, that's big.
Is that an option? Is that it's not mandatory, something they can opt to do?
That's correct. They do not have to do it, but
30 years of service or more.
Yeah, good. And what kind of benefits there typically? Or options there?
1, 2, or 3 times your salary. So or 1, 2, or 3 times your benefit. Sorry. So 3 years normally, 100 plus. The rollover is.
So the annual benefit times 1, 2, or 3.
Right.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good amount.
It's pretty good. A lot of them do that in those situations.
A lot of people don't have the choice not to because they haven't saved any money. There's no way that they can make it to Social Security without it.
A lot of them are using it either as a bridge the gap to Social Security, or we're trying to talk about the tax torpedo on how this could be something they could at least control when money's taxed.
Yeah.
The interesting thing though is a lot of people are making these decisions. They may go home and talk to their spouse about it, but